Hello everyone, this is Colby and it's time for Kha'Zix first impressions as well as my guide on how to play him. So yes, he is a very fun champion I found, and he's actually a very rewarding champion to play as well. Honestly, I only play a very small number of champions when I'm actually not doing guides and whatnot, but I have to say after playing Kha'Zix that I may have actually found a new favorite. Kha'Zix actually has great mobility, juking potential, and massive amounts of damage. Overpowered? Perhaps right now he is a little bit strong because of the damage on his Q ability, but save for that being tweaked a little bit, I feel that he's actually a really good fit right now in the league. With his evolved leap, he actually feels somewhat like a melee Tristana because of the way he can just leap from target to target after getting kills or assists. So he is a champion with very complicated skill and build options, but he's actually surprisingly easy to play well. Even with somewhat of a bad laning phase, I found myself still having a big impact on skirmishes and teamfights later on in the game. Let's take a look into his different abilities, that way I can actually talk about him a little bit more into depth. So right off, you've got his passive, which every time you go unseen from the enemy, you're going to gain a buff on your next auto attack on an enemy champion that will both slow them down and do some bonus damage. So this makes him a great top laner just due to the fact that he can run into the bush, come out, do a little trade, back off and do the same thing, rinse and repeat. And then on his Q, this is also a great thing because, well, first off, it's a melee nuke. It's not an on-hit reset. So you just use it anytime you want to do some extra damage, and then once you evolve this ability, it'll actually give you longer melee range as well as a longer range on the Q itself and a 12% execute based on their missing HP. Now, whenever a target is isolated, you actually do significantly more damage. Now, the thing is, they actually have to be isolated from their creeps as well, so you can actually bait fights out away from the creeps, and you'll be able to win fights a lot easier this way. So what I've noticed is that his Q actually has about just a little bit under 3-to-1 scaling on bonus AD when a target is isolated. So you can just completely nuke people down from not even very much missing HP at all. Now, his W feels kind of like an Ezreal Q. It has about the same range and it has the same width, but it has an AoE at the point of impact. And if you're actually standing in melee range, you're going to give yourself a little bit of a heal. And I actually maxed W second after I maxed my Q. And you're not going to get any bonus healing when you max up your AD, so I think they did that right. You actually have to get AP for that to work. If you, for some reason, want to get AP, you're just going to get more healing. So don't really see that as being a viable option. You're not going to see another Rengar where he's meant to be an AD character, but people are building him AP. And anyways, his E allows him to do this little tiny leap, but once evolved, will actually go really, really far and is a great spell for a lot of different reasons. You can evolve that sucker and it turns into like a little Tristana leap, so that once you get those kills or assists, you can continue leaping on to different targets and do a lot of crazy things with it. It does a pretty decent amount of damage as well. It's got just a little bit less than 1-to-1 skilling. And the cool thing is that it allows you to roam around and gank other lanes pretty well. I've done that quite a bit. You can be in the top lane, run down to the mid. Even with an unevolved leap, it's not too hard to jump in there, get in range, and get a gank off as long as you have some help from the middle lane. He really shines after picking up an assist or kill because he can just chain link to other targets and mow them down. So I found myself getting tons of triple kills in almost all the games that I was playing, and it was actually awesome. And finally, his ultimate. It's a really tiny duration stealth that helps you do extra damage via your passive and those really tight situations, or just helps you juke people out. It gives you the 40% extra bonus speed for that 1 second as well, so you can kind of get away from gank situations if somebody's trying to kill you, or you can jump in there with your E, do some damage, and then stealth out so they can't actually return damage on you. So there's a lot of different things you can do with that. In a lot of cases, I actually just found myself popping the ultimate for the extra damage since I've already jumped into the fight, but there are a lot of very interesting situations where you can use that ultimate to surprise your opponent. When you come out of the bush, you just bam, right there on top of their face, and a lot of really cool stuff like that. So mostly in a tight situation where damage is important, pop that ultimate and then bam, attack them, ultimate again, bam, attack them, so that you have that passive going, and it's really going to pay off big. Alright, so overall, playing as Kha'Zix is all about knowing when to jump in teamfight situations and skirmishes and finding the right isolated squishy. You don't always want to just like jump on the first target you see, because Kha'Zix can definitely take someone down really fast, but he's also squishy himself if you're building him correctly. So you need to make sure and wait for engagements to happen rather than letting them all engage onto you, and you need to just jump in the back onto the carry and take them down super fast. As far as an item build, I feel, at least in my opinion, that going for Brutalizer, Phage, and the Last Whisper gives you a giant amount of damage as well as a decent amount of utility. And rather than going for the whole like Doran's and then Bloodthirster, he's not necessarily just like an all-out auto attack champion. A lot of his damage revolves around his Q, and this is the reason I go for both a Brutalizer and a Last Whisper, because you're going to be able to eat through any armor that squishies are going to have, as well as do a big amount of damage to any tanks with that Q. And that's really what it comes down to in my personal opinion. You're not going to be healing yourself a crap load because the Q does not work with the Bloodthirster, so just get that out of your mind. And then as far as the skills and maxing out your evolves, what I always found to be the most effective in my opinion was maxing Q first and then W, and then going for your leap. Since your leap is kind of a utility ability, you don't have to max it first, you just want it for the leaping. Now for evolves, I'll actually I'll evolve that Q first, that way I can actually have more damage in the laning phase, and I'm not really roaming around pre-11 and doing a lot of team fights. So, but at level 11, I'll actually max out, or I'll evolve my E so that I can have that increased leap range and be able to jump between targets better. And for my final evolve, I actually evolve my stealth. And the reason I don't do the W is because really all I found is that the W makes it pretty much easier to hit, it doesn't do any extra damage, and then it gives you the ability to pop your passive, but honestly you can just do that with auto attacks anyways, and I found that that extra passive tick from going stealth a third time or just being able to escape is a lot more useful in my personal opinion. So perhaps that one is up to you to decide, but that's just the one that I found was most effective. The main ones are that you max your or evolve your Q and then your E. After that, it's kind of personal play style possibly. Runes and masteries, I do pretty much the same as I would on an AD carry. I do 15 AD since he is all about that bonus AD scaling. I'll do armor on my yellows and magic resist for the blue runes. On my masteries, that's just going to be 21, 9, 0, and that way I have a little bit of defensive skill points, but mostly going into that big damage. So overall, I'm really looking forward to playing some Kha'Zix a lot more in the top lane against a variety of different opponents. To be honest, I do feel he is a lot stronger than some of the other releases that I've seen lately. And that's just because, I don't know, whenever I play a champion and I do really well, especially after having such a bad early game, I get a feeling that that champion's going to be strong. I mean, just really strong, especially in much more capable hands. So I can imagine that some of the top elo players are already abusing him as we speak. But it's probably just going to be, you know, a little bit of a tell of time, and we'll have to just wait and see if he's going to get knocked down and nerfed a little bit, or if possibly he just falls into a good spot in the league. But my personal opinion, a little bit on the strong side. I definitely enjoy playing him, even if they tweaked his numbers a little bit. I think I would still enjoy playing him just because of his great mobility and juking, and he just feels like a really fun champion to play. So definitely check him out. And if you're on the fence about buying him, I would say definitely do it. Even if they do tweak him a bit, it's probably not going to be that much knowing right. So if you want a really strong champion that's really mobile and can jump in there and just tear his opponents apart, then Kha'Zix is probably your bug. So squash those inhibitions, and I'll see you guys around for the next one. Thanks for watching. Please hit that like button if you enjoyed this video. If you didn't, obviously leave a comment down below and let me know why. I'll see you around for the next one. Peace out.